Hey, everybody. Welcome to our final session of our Open Campus Week. It's been a really fun 3 days. Thank you so much to folks who've participated here. Today, we're going to be going through a session that is on launching your data career. I'm going to walk you through a step-by-step guide that will help you with all of the pieces that you need to master in order to land that first job. Before we get into that, I want to just say again, thanks for everybody who's joined, and folks like Mohammed and Alexandra that have been in all these sessions are going to be sick of me explaining what Open Campus is and pushing you to get your free access to courses, but I'm going to do it one more time. So during this time through October 31st, we've made our entire course library free for anybody. You do not have to have a paid subscription, and you can get full unlimited access. So go to mavenanalytics.io and check that out. Hopefully you'll enjoy some of the courses. The content that we're going to cover today, a lot of it is available in the Launching Your Data Career course. So I'm posting a link to that in the chat now, including the deck that we're going to walk through today. Will be a stripped down version today of what's covered in that course. So if you want this deck, go to that course, use the free access, download the PDF, and you'll get all the slides, and you'll also get a whole bunch more slides that I've cut out because, frankly, it's so much content that we can't cover in an hour. So I am going to try to fly through that, and it should be a lot of fun. So if you guys have questions, drop them into the questions tab. You should see that in the bottom right. And I'll probably pause along the way to take some of the questions, and then I'll try to leave a little bit of time at the end. And so let me pull up the material for today. And great to see a lot of people that have been in a bunch of these sessions. Jessica, good to see you here again. Javier. So it's been a lot of fun. We have so many good guests, and this one will just be me, but hopefully you guys enjoyed Kristen earlier, Alice earlier, and Chris before that. So let me see. This is not presenting right for one. Give me 1 second. That should fix it, I think. There we go. Okay. Perfect. So this should work now. And so I'm going to be taking you through this guide, and today we're going to be talking about these content areas: finding your path, writing a strong resume, marketing yourself on LinkedIn, building a project portfolio to bring your work to life, how to network and apply for jobs, acing the data analyst interview, and then finally we'll give you a very little succinct one-sheeter that will serve as a career launch checklist that you can go through. So again, this is kind of for folks who are trying to get that first job or maybe their second job in data and want a little help. So one thing I want to call out is that the finding your path, building a project portfolio, and acing the analyst sections, I'm going to go through those in a little less depth because we had some great sessions already this week. So what I will do for those, I'm going to actually, I'm going to point you to the on-demand sessions, which I'll point, I'll put a link in the comments right now. So this, that link at Livestorm right now will let you watch any of the sessions from this week on demand. We're going to leave them up at least for a few weeks. So for those 3 that are checked right there, go check out those ones if you if you're interested in going deep. But I still will cover them in short form here. So first off, finding your path. We had a session earlier this morning with Chris Brule. These are some of the common data roles: the BI analyst or the data analyst, the data engineer, the data viz specialist, the data scientist. If you are thinking about whether this is, whether there's one that you really want to focus on, there's a couple of great resources that I would recommend. So first, there is this Find Your Path tool that we have at mavenanalytics.io/find your path. And I should just drop that in here as well. Let me grab that for you. And let's see. Why is that? That link is not working for me right now. So I'll have to figure out what that link has been moved to. But it's a great little tool where you can basically go in and answer some questions about what you like, the type of work that you're interested in, what your skills are, what you want to learn, and it will point you towards which of those paths is probably going to be the best for you. So really awesome. And that one's free all the time, not just during Open Campus Week. This tool is there for everybody. And so if you want to get, oh, thank you, Aaron. I don't know why that's what I was using. And for some reason I was getting an error there. So thanks. Yeah, Aaron just dropped that into the comment, and Abhilasha did as well. So we had this session earlier. Look for this session on the link of On Demand, and you can go a lot deeper here. So I'm going to focus on the other sections that we don't cover: writing a resume, marketing yourself on LinkedIn, super, super important, finding jobs and applying, and we're going to go pretty deep in those. So first off, like, why is resume writing so hard? Why are people that haven't done this a lot typically pretty bad at resumes? Like, we see a lot of, from junior folks trying to break in, we see a lot of pretty bad resumes. Nobody really teaches this well in school. At least I certainly didn't get it in school. My resume was terrible when I was getting started. Sometimes folks try to use generic templates. And the thing about resumes is it's a marketing tool for your specific skills. And so the template approach is okay to start with, but you really need to customize it to the things that make you personally really, really good. So you can't just fill in the information in a template and expect that that's going to be the best way to show your skills. So we're going to talk about how to customize it and what that means in a little more detail. And then, folks don't know how employers think. And that's one of the things we're going to try to talk to you about in this section, give you a little insight in there. So there are a couple of really interesting stats here. One is that 75% of qualified applicants get rejected by an applicant tracking system, or the ATS. So that's because they have poor formatting on their resume, or they didn't use the right words that they could have. But that stat from a Forbes study is saying that almost everybody, it's 3 out of 4 people, get filtered out by these automated systems just because they don't understand the system and they're not doing their resume in an ATS compliant way. So that's really huge. And then the next one, which we'll go and do a little exercise on, is the 6-second rule. You have 6 seconds to make yourself stand out to a resume reader. And I know that number sounds crazy, but I think, if anything, I think that number's too big. And we're going to walk through that in a second. So first, the 6-second rule. I'm going to put a resume up here for 6 seconds, and I want you to try to process it and retain any information that you can before this timer runs out. So boom, now I'm taking it away. How did that feel? Tell me in the comments. Do you guys have a lot of information on that, or did that feel like no time at all? Yeah, nothing, right? You can't get anything, right? And so it's crazy to think that that's how much time you have to impress somebody on a resume. But you could say, hey, that's unfair, or you could say, hey, that's the reality. And what do I do given that that's the reality? And that's what we're going to focus on, is give you these real strategies to work within the world as it actually is, which is that it's unfortunate. Nobody's going to spend a lot of time reading your resume if you don't nail that first 6 seconds. And we're going to help you get their attention in that first 6 seconds and make sure they stick with you for longer than that. So these, I think, are really, really important to understand. So this was from a study by the Harris poll. They did it on behalf of CareerBuilder, and far and away, the biggest deal breaker that just ended the conversation about a candidate was having typos or bad grammar. And it's like, if the candidate can't take the time to proofread their resume when they want a job, it just looks really, really bad. And on the hiring manager side, most of the time you don't get typos in a resume because it does look so sloppy and it's easy to proofread. But when you do, it looks terrible. So This one really resonates with me. The other ones that we've got on here are having an unprofessional email. We'll give an example of that. Not having quantifiable results, too much text, like big paragraphs that are hard to consume, not being customized to the role, longer than 2 pages, no cover letter. But I would focus really on probably the top 4 here. Don't be sloppy. Make sure you don't have typos there. Use a professional email. If you can, have quantifiable results. That's a big one. And then try to avoid really big blocks of text. So in order to kind of illustrate these in a concrete way, some of the big tips that we want to share with you, we're going to walk you through this assignment. So we've got Leslie. She's working as a data analyst. She's been doing that for about 2 years, and she's now applying for a new role. And it's our job to basically beat up her resume, look through these 7 critical tips, and then help her make it into a resume that will really sell her and help her get the job. So the first tip that we have here is to look professional. And again, I'm not going to go into the depth on a lot of these slides because we've got a lot of content to get through. But if you go to the Launching Your Data Career course, you can download this entire PDF with a bunch of additional slides that I've cut out for the sake of this presentation. So first one here, it's probably a little small, but you can see the Leslie Knope here, junior data analyst. Her email that she's put on here is Larry Bird's next wife at hotmail.com. She's a big Larry Bird fan. He's a basketball player. So this would be a super weird email to see as a hiring manager. So let's replace that and just do a very simple leslie.knope@gmail.com. Next, she's got her Indiana University experience as September 2014 to May of 2008. Obviously, it doesn't make sense. She's not traveling back in time as a senior. So again, we can see that this is a typo. It's a little sloppy, and then also has misspelled writing here. So these are just some concrete examples of watch the typos, use a professional email. Super, super, super important. The next piece is the applicant tracking system. And I will go into a little bit more depth on this one because I think a lot of folks don't understand it. So companies, especially a lot of big companies, will use some software to help them find the best candidates. And really, the function of the software is almost to not necessarily find the best candidates, but to select a smaller group of a pool from the bigger group that is still in consideration and kind of weed out anybody who doesn't have the qualifications at all, right? So think of it that way. 400 people apply. This software is going to try to help people get down to, some smaller subset, maybe 40, maybe 20, whatever it is. And it's automated, it's scanning the text, and it is helping helping folks find keywords on resumes that match the job descriptions is the best way to think about this. So things that you'll want to do here is read the job descriptions, use the same language that's in there, and use standard headings like experience, work experience, education. Don't get super fancy. Don't use non-traditional section headings. It can confuse the system. And don't include tables, columns, graphics, pages, or footers. Images are notoriously impossible for these systems to work with. So if you include something that you think is valuable in an image, the automatic system probably isn't going to catch it at all. So here we've just got a very quick example to illustrate this. Leslie has where I studied, things I'm good at, and where I've worked. These mean nothing to the applicant tracking system. So replace those with education, skills, and experience on the right side. You want to match those headers with the things that are standard and common so that it works really well there. Next one, and this really comes down to that 6-second rule. If there is something on your resume that doesn't sell you, just either change it, right, rewrite it differently so that it does, or get it out of there entirely, right? If you've got what you think is like 3/4 of a page that's really good, meaty, selling copy that talks about how awesome you are, don't try to fill the rest with stuff that's fluff, because all it will do, it won't help to look like you have more text. It will distract from that part that's really, really good. So we want everything that's on there to be really good and to sell you. And so here we've basically got some pieces here. And at this step, we're just cutting. We will add some stuff back. Basically, there's a description here saying I graduated in 4 years from Indiana University, earning a history degree. And it's just that those two lines there, they're not helping at all, right? So we're cutting those. And then we've got under skills a whole bunch of things that don't really apply to being a data analyst, like babysitting, Microsoft Word, writing, managing Parks Department budget. So we're cutting that stuff too. Okay, so we're just trimming it down. And now you see the skills that are left over. We've got working with databases, report creation, Excel, Microsoft Power BI, Google Analytics. Now when somebody sees skills, they go, oh yeah, that person's a data analyst. They're not distracted by seeing, oh, she's a babysitter, right? Like, so just get that stuff off. If it doesn't matter. Yes, we all have other skills that are not relevant to the job. Don't put them on there, or figure out a way to put them on there that does make it more relevant to the job. And then down at the bottom here, we've got a couple of pieces of the description for this job and a babysitting service job that just really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So if it doesn't sell, get it out of there as quickly as possible. And when you do that and you pull out the things that aren't valuable at all, that actually leaves you a little bit more space to paint a picture with really descriptive language about your strongest points, okay? And I recommend doing this kind of in that order. Cut the things first, and then you'll have more space. So this is, one second. Definitely still getting over a bit of a health issue here. So in our bad, better, best here, we have somebody could write performed data analysis. An improvement from that is analyzed paid marketing campaign data to improve the business. And then the best that would really rock it is use SQL, Power BI, and search engine reporting tools to analyze and optimize paid marketing campaigns, increasing sales by 20% with a fixed marketing budget. So that last one just does an amazing job of actually bringing the work to life and making it really clear the work that's been done and the skills that this person can bring to the table. So that's what we want to do here. And we want to we want to work and improve this a little bit. So in skills, a great way to do this is to really focus on the specific skills and try to paint this picture. So we're taking it from working with databases to SQL querying and database management. So it's a little more recognizable. People go, oh, SQL, yep, we've got that. Data visualization with Microsoft Excel and Power BI. So now it's talking about data visualization as a skill, which wasn't in there before. And then we talk about Google Analytics and specifically what they did, the implementation and the website reporting. So that's just one of the examples. I won't belabor all of the examples there, but the next piece, and again, this one is, I don't know. It's hard to say what's my favorite piece of advice here, but I think this is probably one that I see people get wrong a lot, and I definitely got wrong in the past. So here, in Leslie's example, there's two things highlighted here, and the one I want to talk about first is the education. So she's got her education up at the very top, right? If you think about the person reading this and making a snap judgment within 6 seconds, this is one of the first things she's going to read, and it's like super not useful for selling her. She's got a degree, it's in history, not really super relevant to analytics at all, versus if she bumped her skills up to the top, that stuff is so much better and sells Leslie in a really, really good way. So try to get the stuff that sells you at the very top. Don't worry about the order of the resume template that you're using. Move stuff around, and whatever you think is the best at communicating that you could rock this job, get it to the very top. And in that case, somebody will read it in the first 6 seconds because it's not buried at the bottom where they would miss it. And then they will continue reading and they'll stick with you through the rest of the resume. The next piece that we're going to talk about here is red flags. And so some of the common red flags that a hiring manager might be worried about is if you're a frequent job hopper, if you've got no experience at all, if you're lacking the required skills for the job, if you've got really big gaps in employment, we talked about that a little bit yesterday. If you've got an irrelevant background, so you look like a salesperson, but you're saying you're applying for an analyst job, or you're even like that case too, you're kind of a perfect fit for another role. So here's an example just with Leslie's resume again. And you guys can walk through all of these case studies in a lot more depth if you go in and download the PDF. But basically, she's got this experience that's pretty irrelevant. Luckily, she does have a data analyst job since then. But the experience that's in a totally different area, and then the education, those can sometimes be things that folks will be scared of. And if you have these red flags, the first step is just to understand them, right? And then if you can understand them, if you can be honest about them for yourself, then you can start taking the next step, which is understanding, okay, what is the story that I want to tell about this? Okay, I've got an employment gap. I know that an employer is potentially concerned about this. What is my story around that gap so that I still can look as attractive as possible? And that's the same way you want to approach any of these potential red flags. And then the final one is, don't just copy and paste. Don't have one resume that you're going to use for every single job in the event that that you've got different types of jobs you're applying to. So in this pretty simple example here, which again, you guys can go jump in there for and download in the PDF. We're kind of tailoring this for, instead of a data analyst role, it's a financial analyst, which might make sense. Same person could be applying to both jobs. I did when I was starting out. I applied to some data analyst jobs, some financial analyst jobs. And so in that case, you want to make sure you get as many relevant details in there. So kind of customize that resume. And we do that in the skills section here, talking about a deep understanding of financial statements and accounting procedures, expertise visualizing financials. So that is what I would recommend there, is just kind of make sure that you are tailoring the resume to the job. So pro tip is, have a friend who is willing to be really blunt and tell you when you're not doing a good job or where you could improve, and have them look at it. Ask them some key questions that you'll see there. Cover letters, I'll probably blow through this pretty quickly because there's some other stuff we want to get to after this. But basically, no one's ever not gotten hired because they've had a cover letter. And some folks definitely have gotten a chance because they wrote a good cover letter. So you can't really do a nice customized cover letter if you're doing a spray and pray and you're applying to 1,000 jobs a day through, just clicking a button. But if you're zeroing in on companies that you're really interested in, teams that you think you could really help, then a good cover letter can really help. And you want to have a good intro. The body is where you're going to really discuss your qualifications. And then in closing, you're going to thank them, reiterate enthusiasm for the role, and also include a specific call to action you'd want them to take. Here's an example, which I won't run through because I'm a little slower than expected. But we've also got this great resume self-assessment, which this is one you can download as well. I would recommend going through here, ask yourself these questions. They basically walk through the tips that we've covered and go through it in a little bit more detail. If you follow this, you answer the questions, you make some edits based on them, I guarantee your resume will be better than it is now. So get in there. Again, this is free. Anybody can get this during Open Campus and use the course. So LinkedIn, why does LinkedIn matter so much? I personally think LinkedIn probably matters more than the resume. I can almost guarantee that you will absolutely not get hired without the hiring manager going to your LinkedIn profile at some point during the process and a few people on the team going to check it out. It is part of the process. It's how we do background check a little bit on people. And when somebody does that, you want your resume to scream, yes, this is a data analyst. They've got the experience, they've got the skills, they're the right person. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the components here. So in the first component is just having a good profile photo. So basically, you want it to be clear, well-framed. You should look like a happy person that somebody would want to work with. Some of the bad examples here are a blurry photo, like cat picture, or a guy with a beer. I actually knew a woman who, she told me, she was like, my mother-in-law is so overbearing. She's like made a comment about my LinkedIn profile picture. And I was like, oh yeah, that does sound like a little bit of an overstep. And she said, I mean, like, I did have a beer in it. And I was like, yeah, you shouldn't have a beer in your LinkedIn profile. So I was on the mother-in-law side on that one when she finished the thought. So just make sure to keep it professional. Make sure you look happy, like somebody would want to work with you and spend 40 hours of their week hanging out with you. The next one is the background image. So this one is very much overlooked just because people think, oh, I can just stick the standard one up there. But we've seen people do a lot of good things. So you could have like a chart that shows that you are interested in data. You could do some chart that you've created. You could, it could even just be like a stock chart. You could put your credentials up here. I think that's probably the most effective way that we've seen people do it. So this is an example of somebody sharing their Maven badges up in the top. The next piece is the headline. So the headline is really interesting because as you start interacting with people on LinkedIn, which we'll talk about in the later section, networking and applying, the headline shows up. It's your name and your headline. That shows up on your posts. That shows up if you comment on people's posts. So it's a really important part of your profile. And it's the first thing that somebody sees here. So I would say make sure it feels really data analytics focused. You can put your tools in there to really make those pop to the top of the page. What I would say don't do is don't put aspiring data analyst. To me, if you're analyzing data and you are you're working on this, you can solve the problems. You're a data analyst, even if somebody hasn't hired you for it. So I think don't put aspiring. But other than that, this example is pretty good here, and keep it something similar, and you should be in good shape. Use the about section. Try to tell a story here. Be somewhat descriptive, but also not too wordy. Keep it to 3 to 4 short paragraphs tops. Think about getting your keywords in there, like the tools that you use, like SQL, Excel, business intelligence. You can let your personality show a little bit, but again, you got to be professional. You can't be like a total goofball cracking too many jokes in here. And if you want, you could direct people to like a link to your profile here. You could do something else. So you can have a smart call to action in here. The experience section, this is another one that we're always going to look at. So make sure that any previous jobs that you have, you've talked about them in a way that feels relevant to the data analyst role. If you've got relevant education, if you've got licenses and certifications, this is a good place to talk about that too. So here's an example of somebody talking about their university. I would highlight with university any kind of coursework that's really relevant there. If you don't have anything, I would just keep it pretty brief. If you studied something completely different and you don't think you can talk about it, keep it really brief. But then also any kind of like online courses that you've taken, this is a great way. We've seen people that have they've taken 20 different skills courses in data, and it just shows that you're really invested in the career and you're somebody who is all about the data. So this licenses and certification section is not to be overlooked. Our pro tip here is if you complete courses like you can do for the next 5 or 6 days through the 31st, go ahead and share them on LinkedIn. It's really easy. We've done that, so you can do it with a click of a button. Put a post out there. You'll usually have people say, "Hey, that's great, congratulations!" Like nobody thinks it's weird. We also obviously love it. Getting a plug for Maven. Yeah, tag Maven. We're very active there. We have a pretty big following, like 130,000 followers. So if you tag us, we'll usually say, "Hey, great job," and that all of our followers will see that, and we'll give you a lot more reach on that. So that's an awesome ad, Alexander. This one is maybe my favorite pro tip for LinkedIn, and I think Clay was the first person that I saw do this really, really well. And let me drop his LinkedIn profile because I think it still looks awesome. let me drop this for you in. Yeah, so you guys can go check out Clay Cooper. And Clay's an awesome guy. Clay, he was somebody that he was a pharmacist and he was transitioning to a data career. And he started doing these online data challenges, and he would just post his work on LinkedIn. And what he did that I thought was so awesome is he would make these posts and then he would feature them. So any post that you put out there on LinkedIn, you can feature it, and it lives right near the top of your profile. And so he basically turned the top of his profile into a project portfolio right there. And so I always recommend that. This was the absolute best solution, in my opinion, before Maven built our project showcase, which that's now I say you should do both. Your LinkedIn profile should have your projects posted and featured so that they're right there, and then also use the Maven Analytics project showcase, which I'll drop a link to here for your projects. And the showcase, where you can build your portfolio of data projects, this one is free always. So this is not free because of part of Open Campus. This is a software solution that we built to help data analysts put their work on display. And we just made that solution free for anybody to use. So definitely check that out if you don't have a profile already. It's free, it's really easy to use, and it's custom built for data analysts. So it's really, really cool. So, and do what Clay does and make your LinkedIn profile look like a project portfolio. Clay got his first data job because he was sharing projects. A hiring manager actually approached him. They asked him to have coffee. They met him and they were like, wow, we really like this guy. Don't have any jobs right now. But you're great. And we love what you're doing. And then about 2 months later, they called him up and they said, hey, we do have a job. He didn't even apply. He just came in, presented a dashboard to them, and they got he got the job. So, yeah, so he's rocking. And a quick, good question. How do you get the PowerPoint? So if you go to the course, Launching Your Data Career, which I'll drop that into the chat here again. So this is the course where the PowerPoint is coming from. It's actually even a bigger PowerPoint that I've stripped down for this session. So go into that course it's probably the third or the fourth lecture in that course. There's a download section where you can download all the materials, and there's a PDF of the slides. And also go and take that course to get a little bit more of an in-depth walkthrough of each of these topics, or come back to them at any point. So, key takeaways from the LinkedIn section. This is your public digital resume. I personally advocate for people that they should spend even more time here than they should on their resume. It's so, so important. I often will check a person out on LinkedIn and give it a little bit more weight than I do the resume itself. Keep it professional, but let yourself have a personal brand shine through. Share your badges and credentials, and absolutely be like Clay Cooper and use those featured posts. And that piece will help so, so much. Awesome. So next, building a portfolio. I'll be pretty brief on this one because Enrique covered it in an awesome way in a session earlier this week. So what I will say there is just make sure that you go and if you're interested in going in depth into portfolios, check out Enrique's session. And again, you can get all the sessions here, which that link didn't copy for me. There we go. You can go. No, why is that not working for me? There we go. It's giving me the wrong thing. So it is at Livestorm. I have it open. It's just not copying into my my browser for some reason. Just give me 2 seconds and I'll get that for you. It's still not letting me copy it. I don't know. If you scroll up at the very beginning of the chat here, it's in there, but you'll be able to see this. So I don't want to waste any more time trying to do technical troubleshooting for you. Sorry about that. So quickly, why do you need a portfolio? It's one of the most important things that you should be doing, and it's basically the difference between on a resume you're saying, hey, I'm a good analyst. I have these SQL skills. Thank you so much, Eline. I don't know why I couldn't get that URL. But yeah, on a resume, you're saying, hey, I have these skills. Just please believe me, right? When you show somebody your project portfolio, it's the proof, right? It is really showing them that you can do the exact things that you can do. And it helps you bring your technical skills to life, your strategic thinking, your communication skills, your business acumen. So it's just the best way to show someone that you are that amazing analyst that they are looking for. So Enrique does a great walk through this. He talks about where to get data. You could get it from course projects, public data, volunteer projects. I'll talk quickly about the public data, Kaggle, data.world, or the Maven Analytics Data Playground. I think those are the three best places. The Data Playground is amazing if you're like a brand new learner or beginner to intermediate and you just want practice in anything. It's awesome because they're great data sets that we've curated and we give you some really good analysis prompts. If you know what you're doing already and there's a very specific thing you want, like I want hotel booking data, then I think going to Kaggle or data.world is your best bet because those have hundreds of thousands of data sets and they're searchable. So anything that you really want, Kaggle and data.world will get you there. Whereas like Maven Analytics Data Playground is phenomenal for learning, but it's a much smaller curated set of data. And so we're not going to have every single thing under the sun like those will. To make a really good winning project, biggest thing is start with the business case, then show your insights, then use the data to tell the story, bring in a data visualization there. And if you can, try to provide a technical flex there, like that's where you could have your SQL code, your Python code. Never do it in the opposite order. Do not start with SQL code or Python code. Nobody wants to read your code at the beginning. You have to hook them with the business problems that you can solve, the insights that you found, show them what that data looks like, tell the story using data visualization. Then it's interesting. Oh, wow, this person has the technical skills behind this after they've just communicated this awesome business insight. But if you start with it, you will lose everybody before you've even started. So Enrique talks about how you should package the portfolio. I'm not going to spend a lot of time there, but I will talk about the Maven Analytics Showcase again. And basically, if you just go to mavenanalytics.io/showcase, it is a free solution that is awesome, and it's something that anybody can use, and you'll be able to build a great portfolio. And I just popped the link in there. So go use that anytime. It's free. It's not just during Open Campus. So key takeaways: portfolios are the way that you're going to prove your skills. Find or create your own projects, especially if you're interested in a specific industry. Get some data on that industry. Go to Kaggle, go to data.world. Then use the Maven Analytics platform to showcase your portfolio, and make sure you're doing a really good job communicating. And you could do things like just in the writing within the project, how you describe the process and what you found in the insights, the business outcomes that you think you can drive with it. Sometimes people will actually record like a little YouTube video of them presenting a project. I think that makes you stand out so much because it's just a great way to see what it would actually be like working with a person in real life. And the beautiful thing about that is like, this is live. When I screw up, you see it. In a YouTube video, that's not live. You could do it as many times as you need to. You can cut it, you can edit it. So I think that's a really good way to make yourself work work and look really, really well. So I would definitely recommend trying that. And again, go check out Enrique's session. He goes into much more depth about all of this. I just came to give a little bit of plug for that and a little bit of a teaser. So networking and applying for jobs. Some people think of this networking as sort of a dirty word. I'd say maybe I was in that camp at one point. But basically, it's about really building a community and forming your tribe. So what we would recommend here is we found the best data network in existence to be on LinkedIn. It's a really, really helpful, friendly, welcoming group. And we would recommend starting with following LinkedIn influencers, add some connections, then figure out who are kind of like the people that you know that could possibly help you. You want to follow target companies. You want to get involved in conversations. And then finally, that's when it's kind of the right time to start looking for jobs and networking and applying in really smart ways. So the first thing that you can do is follow people that are talking about data. So we've got a good blog article about this at mavenanalytics.io/blog/data-influencers. So check that out. We update it probably like every 6 months. We add some new people, but it's a great place if you just want to say, hey, who's talking about data on LinkedIn? It'll give you links to their profiles and you can check that out. You'll learn a lot just from spending 10 minutes a day on LinkedIn instead of on Instagram or something. And it can be really valuable. Next step is beef up your connections. Just think about anybody you've worked with or people that know you and like you. Connect with them on LinkedIn. The next piece we talk about here is thinking about those connections. Who are the folks that both like you and are sort of in a position to help, like more senior people that have good networks in the industry you want to be in the geography you want to be in, if that's applicable. Think about who is both willing and able to help you out, and just have a short list of those people and think about how you can make those connections stronger. Follow your target company. So if you're interested in Maven Analytics, jump into LinkedIn and follow us. You'll see what we talk about. You'll see if there's ever any jobs open. And then this is, I think, the part that probably scares people the most about getting active online and starting to build a brand is getting into the conversation. And I know this came up in a couple of the sessions this week with Kristen and with Annie and Lauren too. If you haven't been active online before, it can be really intimidating. And I think the way to do it is to start with these activities that are not scary at all, and then kind of work your way into it. So start with just following some of the people that we talk about in that blog post. See what they're talking about, learn from them, read comments, start interacting with relevant posts, like start seeing what people are commenting, start to try to add your own value within comments. That's not that scary, right? Not a ton of people are seeing the comments. Some will, but you shouldn't be as intimidated there. And then after you start interacting in the comments, you'll start to feel more comfortable writing your own posts about your own journey. You could talk about courses you took. You could talk about some new skill that you picked up. You could talk about a project you're working on. But just get started. And I think what you'll find is it's a lot less intimidating than you think once you kind of start taking some baby steps there. Then you want to start looking for jobs. I won't go into too much depth here, but again, we've got a good blog post here at mavenanalytics.io/blog/find-data-jobs, data-jobs. It's pretty good. It walks you through why it's important to have recruiters on your side. And usually recruiters are not paid by the job searcher. They're paid by the company. So they're free for you to work with. You can look at career pages. You can look at publications and newsletters. Like, I live outside of Boston. There's some really good Boston technology publications that will talk about, hey, this company is doing really well. This company just raised money because they're trying to hire people. So that can be a good place to see who you should be targeting. You can look at groups and communities. You can check out job boards like Indeed, Career Builder, things like that. They're still good. LinkedIn is still a great place to find jobs as well. And then this is the part that I think a lot of people get wrong. You don't want to just apply to 100,000 jobs through the auto apply button. Maybe that works for some people, but I don't think that works very well. What instead, I think you want to be a little bit more targeted, try to find jobs that are actually a really good fit, and then try to find out if, you can find someone that you're connected with through a mutual connection on LinkedIn that works in that department. The hiring manager is obviously the best person, and try to get a warm introduction from somebody who knows your work, knows that you would be a good person, and knows that that hiring manager. And I just think back to other than my first job, that's always how I've been able to get jobs, is through connections, through somebody saying, "Hey, John's looking and interested in this thing that you have open." And it's just so different. Like, think about being the hiring manager and getting somebody recommended to you by someone that they know and they trust. It's such a different type of a conversation than them trying to weed through the 400 people on the auto apply, which they're probably not even really looking at anyway. So next, and we're almost out of time, so I will basically just say that that Aaron yesterday did a great session on acing the data analyst interview. He talks about kind of the things that people are looking for from the hiring manager perspective: cultural fit, technical skills. They're going to measure your problem solving quantitatively, your curiosity, your learning ability, your business acumen, your communication skills, and your enthusiasm for the role. So he does a really good job talking about kind of what you can expect and how they're evaluating these different things, and what you want to be getting into. The different mentality for a screener interview versus the core team interview, which is usually a little bit more in depth. Again, that's something that Aaron talked about yesterday. Types of interview style questions: the experience and fit, the technical assessment, the case study. Personally, my favorite as a hiring manager is always the case study. I feel like that's where I really feel comfortable making a decision, like whether I think I would like working with a person or not, is actually going through a problem and working it. And Aaron goes through some of the most common case studies, so definitely check that out. That's a really common interview method for data positions. So I think your key takeaways that I'd love you to get out of that session are understanding what employees are looking for, understanding that it's a two-way dialogue. It's not a test. It's not something you should feel uptight about. You're getting questions answered that you care about too, like what to expect from the job, things like that. Preparation is everything. I talked about yesterday. I never wish somebody good luck in a job interview. I wish them good preparation. It really is everything. If you're expecting to get lucky, I'm sorry for you. You should be expecting to put in a lot of work and be ready for that interview. And that's how you're going to get the result that you want. And then most importantly, understand some of these common frameworks, especially for the interview types, like technical screeners and like case studies. So it says Chris here, but it ended up being Aaron. Chris was under the weather. So that's another one that's on demand right now. And there's a pretty deep session here in the Launching Your Data Career course that you should check out as well. So finally, and again, you will have this in the PDF and you can download it here. We have this career launch checklist that you can walk through and basically make sure that you go through each of these, and you'll feel really prepared to not only look good, get yourself the interview, find the job, but actually ace that interview too. So hopefully this felt valuable for you guys. I can take a couple of questions here. Let me jump into the questions tab. I see there's at least some in here, and I don't know what's going on with my mouse here right now. There we go. Okay. Awesome. So let me pull this up. I'm transitioning from QA to data analytics. So in a resume, I will for sure remove the previous experience, which I have in detail. But in skills, is it good practice to highlight them or not give it importance since it's not related? Okay, yeah. So depending on kind of specifically what your QA role is, like you might be, I know different types of QA that people had. I knew people that were kind of like manual QA. I knew people that were doing QA automation. But I think either way, some of those skills could be really valuable for data analysis. So for one piece, like if you're automating anything, just kind of the ability to think like that is certainly valuable, and I would still talk about that. If you're doing things where you're doing back-end QA and you're familiar with a database, I would play up the database skills and things that you did in the QA role. But in general, like a QA role is a pretty technical role, and definitely still valuable. There are much worse, harder pivots to make than coming from QA. So yeah, I wouldn't remove it. I wouldn't make it look like you didn't do it, but try to talk about it in a way that feels the most similar to a data role that you can, if that makes sense. How do you include projects? We've got one here from Jacqueline. How do you include projects when you're new to data analysis? So what I would do is go to the data playground first, and that's a great place to be. Let me pull that up actually right now, and I'll show you guys that. So let's see if I share. Let me drop this other feed here, and then I'll show you guys the data playground just to walk through this, because I think this is, if you're totally new, I think this is going to be your best bet. So it's mavenanalytics.io/data playground, and there's all these data sets that are just here. These are free all the time, not just part of Open Campus. So anybody can come here, go into these different data sets, see which one seems interesting to you, and then you can just download a CSV right here. So you could start using it in Excel. You could upload it to SQL. You could put it into Power BI. However you are planning to practice and analyze data, you can work on projects here. And so if I go to full details, you'll see these recommended analyses here, these questions. And I think this is really good for beginners because sometimes you might be spinning your wheels. You don't know necessarily what to dig into. So just don't even worry about it. Just go get a data set that has these recommended analyses at the data playground and just get started and answer these questions with the data. And then later, you'll start to get more comfortable asking your own questions, and you can dig in and start to, not necessarily just rely on something like this, but I'd say this is probably the best place that you can start, would be my recommendation there. Let me see, next questions. So we've got Donnelly here. If I have a long history of underemployment, working unrelated jobs, and also having employment gaps, should I consider career coaching to address those gaps? Can I list my projects in lieu of work experience? So yeah, definitely, I would say think about putting some projects on there. And I'm going to be like pretty direct and explain like what folks are worried about when they see employment gaps or underemployment. Folks may be concerned on the hiring manager side when they see gaps. They're thinking a couple of things, right? The two things that concern them the most are maybe this person is lazy and doesn't want to work, or maybe like there's some kind of a personality problem that other companies haven't wanted to work with this person. So I'd say those are the biggest things that worry me as a hiring manager when I see gaps. There are also other very, very good reasons for unemployment gaps. And I've heard great reasons, like I was taking care of an ill family member. That's you're not going to hold that against somebody, right? So I think the key is to be able to explain the gaps that you have, and understand what your red flags are like that. And it sounds like you are already very self-aware, which is great. But think about what your story is, and maybe somebody in terms of career coaching might that might be a good option for you. So hopefully that's helpful, Donnelly. Let me see. As a data analyst, is the Microsoft 201, the MO 201, is that a useful certificate? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's useful for two reasons. So one, just getting the certificate is a good third-party verification from a really, really well-known brand, Microsoft, that how to do some of the things that that a data analyst would do in Microsoft Excel. So that third-party certification has value on its own. And then the other thing is, in preparing for that exam, it's just kind of a really good framework to structure the things that you might want to learn to be good at Excel, and to be a good analyst using Excel. So we have a course that covers MO 201 certification prep. It's by Enrique. If you've seen Enrique in any of the sessions earlier this week, he's fantastic, and I would recommend taking that, especially while it's free for the next few days. Like, at least go in there, get started with it to get an understanding for the exam and what to expect. But yeah, I think it is definitely valuable, both for the actual certification and for the study framework. Javier, let's see. Javier, I have a custom profile picture created by an AI tool. It's a normal photo, slightly modified. Yeah, I'm not sure. It probably is okay. I'm not sure, Javier, exactly what I'm saying. That sounds okay to me. That it's like, it's you, but it's sort of like your avatar. I think I've seen people do that before, and that's okay. I don't think that's necessarily super weird. I think it'd be much weirder to not have any picture, or have a picture where like you looked like a schlub, or you were looking like angry in the picture, or like the example of holding a beer or something like that. But I don't know, show it to a couple people that you trust and get their opinion on it, and see what they think about it. What else we've got? We've got Danny. Hey, Danny. It's good to see you pop into this session. So if already in a new role, how do you advise keeping on top of new tools, updates, and the change in how the landscape is moving with AI? Yeah, this is a great question. So AI, I'm not sure exactly where I sit with AI. I'm both like pretty optimistic and also a little bit skeptical at the same time. So we put together a course, ChatGPT for data analysis. And so we went pretty deep into some of the use cases like SQL, Excel, Sheets, Power BI, Python, like where's the interplay with tools like ChatGPT and Bard. And I think what's interesting is today they're useful, but also like they're kind of cumbersome, and you have to check their work. They're not always correct. Like I can ask ChatGPT or Bard to take a SQL script and performance optimize it, and make sure it still has the same output. And it will give me something every time. It will give me a script. That script may or may not actually produce the same output and follow the same logic, and it may or may not actually be optimized over my previous script. So that's my feeling right now. I know that it's for people who write about this stuff, they want to write like AI is coming to take the jobs, and there's certain jobs that are very much feel like they can be replaced, but the job of a data analyst, where you're synthesizing all this data, you're using judgment about a business. You have to understand caveats in the data. There's just so many judgment areas, and the fact that right now it's sort of hit or miss on the technical components, and then you think about all the judgment areas. It's going to be really hard to kind of replace the analyst and create that analyst in a bottle that that a lot of folks are billing as like what AI will be. And it's certainly not there now. It's like nowhere even close. But so that's the one side of the argument that I definitely do believe in. And then there's the other side of the argument, and I believe this argument too, is if you could make an analyst in a bottle, like make an AI that was really good at what we do as data analysts, that would be so valuable for a business. And so the market, the amount of value that could be created is massive. And there is a ton of venture money going into it. There are a ton of really, really smart people trying to solve that problem with this enormous carrot of an incredible amount of value that is to be created if they can solve this incredibly hard problem. So, I mean, there's some of the smartest minds that are both data people and work and build products. So it's going to be really interesting to see what it can do. I honestly, I don't know where it is. What I am doing is trying to keep up, trying to see what are the latest tools, trying to follow people that know more about this than I do, especially in data. And but there's no way to keep up with all of it. It's all moving so fast. There's new companies every day. There's new tools that people are putting out in AI every day. So don't think you can be on top of all of it. Maybe find people online that are that you think are really good and are trustworthy and are trying to stay on top of it, and follow them, see what they have to say. But I think most likely it's going to become even more valuable than it is right now, which right now I've said is kind of cumbersome, kind of hit or miss. And there is a possibility it could kind of wipe us out someday. I don't put a very high probability on it because I just think the problem is so hard to solve. But very smart people are trying to solve it right now. So, Danny, maybe more than you were hoping to get from that question, but it's a really good question. So let me see if there's anything else. Let's see. Yeah, Anna is saying also has a QA career and trying to figure out, basically has this break, and then also trying to figure out how to quantify the impact. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't try to force it if you don't think there's really good quantifiable results. I'd say I'd probably focus for you more on what are the things that you learned in QA, like potentially how a database works, critical attention to detail, testing, automation, things like that can be really valuable. Coding, potentially, depending on what kind of a QA person you are. So I'd say that's probably what I would focus on, because the unless there were things like you were writing things to catch bugs, and like maybe you could apply that to writing automation to catch errors in reporting or issues with database or something like that, then you could maybe say that's valuable, and you caught X number of cases or something. I don't know, something like that maybe. And I might be stretching a little bit, but yeah, I would focus probably on the data relevant skills that you learned as a QA person. Let's see. So one more here, and I think that will cover basically all the questions. So year ago, got MS Azure, Power BI analyst and data engineering certificate. Have not been able to work at it last year. Suggestions for how to get on track. Start the course as new. I mean, this one's kind of situational. I'd say, like, if you still think your skills are sharp, then you probably don't need to start over again. For me, if it's been a year or multiple years since I've been working on some kind of a technical skill, I probably need to start back at the beginning. What I've usually found is like your learning is primed, and you could probably fly through your second pass of some of that learning material. But I mean, I think you probably know the answer to it. If your skills aren't quite there yet, you probably need to go back and at least do a little bit of a refresher. But you could probably blast through it. All right. I definitely went over time because there's a bunch of questions and had a good amount of material. But this was a really fun week for us at Maven. We've never done this before. We've never done a multi-day live event session format like this. It was so fun seeing a lot of you show up into multiple sessions. There's folks that I'd never met before, and I feel like from our interaction here, I feel like I know you now, which is really cool. I've had people reach out and connect on LinkedIn. Very, very cool. I see Robin here. Robin's one of those people. So just thank you, everybody, for making this kind of as fun of an event as we could have possibly imagined. I hope that you got a tremendous amount of value here. I'm leaving this 3 days with feeling like it was valuable for folks, and my sentiment is we should do this more often. So we'll figure out what the cadence is, but yeah, thank you guys for being awesome. Thank you guys for being really engaged. Give all of our guest speakers some love. They were incredible. Couldn't be more happy with all the folks that spoke. So last thing is just, you've heard me say it probably 10 times at this point, but all of our courses are free right now. Enjoy the weekend. If you're looking for something to do, build a new skill, and it's something that you can have for life, and it'll help you in your career. And just thank you again. Really appreciate it. Bye, everybody.